warm
Okay, we're going to see if we can do this. There's going to be a fireside chat here in about 7 minutes. For those of you who are new to Stars Reach, let's go ahead and kick in with the trailer. I can't type it right. Stars Reach. Let's just start off with the trailer. Yeah, so for those of you that are new, that Stars Reach, the fireside chat's going to be starting in 5 minutes. I haven't attended one of these, so I don't know how that's going to work out. I assume it's in Discord. Um, so I figure some chat or something will start in Discord, so keeping my eye on it. Okay, I'm already in it. So just so they're playing some. Hopefully you can hear that. So we'll bring that up when it's ready. Can I? Actually, can I? Okay, we can mute the music for a minute. Okay. Alright. What does this do? Pop out. Okay, we can pop it out. Alright, cool, cool, cool. There we go. Nice. So we can pop it out. We'll do that. I've never done one of these chat sessions like this in Discord, so I'm kind of curious how it works. So we're going to mute that for just a minute. Minimize this for a second. So I wanted a few things about this game. See if it shows it here. All right, so this is one thing that's a little bit different than some of your other MMOs is terraforming. So you can do terraforming in this game. So been playing PAX Day, love PAX Day. The building in PAX Day is great. The graphics look great, but they don't have terraforming. This game has terraforming. And in fact, the other thing, and this is the super unique thing about Stars Reach is, and I don't believe I know any other MMO that's doing this, not massive MMO, is the world has a simulation engine behind it. And so what that means is trees grow, die, they sprout out seeds, more trees come, animals evolve, roam around. Water will perform erosion. And there's even some resources you can get. There's a gun you got that can speed up time and reverse time. So if there's a resource that you want that is a future state of whatever it is, oh, they must have started. Anyway, the world has cool. Let's listen in. Anyway, the world's simulated. So the audio's not playing in my headset. So why is that? It's not how Discord's set up for me. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, I think I got that. I'm not hearing it. Hold on.
Did get to make, we had to make a new character. I made my grav mesh. I made my grappler. I'm in better shape now. Hang on a second.
Okay. Think I got it now.
This is number 36, by the
Okay,
way.
cool. There we go.
Fireside number 36.
Man, I've missed 36. This is my first one.
Be right back. Be right back.
So as I was saying, the world is simulated. So water will erode the ground. Lava can catch trees on fire. Trees grow and die and whatnot. So it's just, to me, it has the ultimate of what you would expect where we would go with MMOs. The world really is livable, breathable. And I didn't really catch on to that early on when I started listening about it. And so it's just such a huge difference from anything else.
Yeah, nice. A guy likes to have a little hot tea sometimes while talking on these things. You know what? Let me try something. I'm going to try something devious. This might not work.
This is my first Fireside chat, too. You can make it bigger. Stage moderator, audience.
Maybe it's better to turn off the camera while I do this for a second, but hang on a moment.
Can I make this bigger? I want it bigger again. How do I make it bigger? Oh, there we go. So I guess we're going to show some game functionality too. And you can see this is where the
Can you
camps are
see what I'm doing?
actually. Yes, we can see.
Can you even hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Where's the chat?
Open the chat for Fireside and type in there to tell me if you can hear me.
I can see the
And
game
tell me if
and
you
hear
can
you.
hear me. Okay, good. And can you see the game? And you can see the game. Okay, great. I don't know. It probably has terrible frame rate and stuff, but um, I'm on the desert planet when a moment ago I was on jungle. Let me look around. Hmm. There are several pieces that are awkward here with the UI, but I will tell you that
Oh, did we lose audio?
the uh, the golden, strange shaped wavery thing that looks like a giant metal sculpture is a portal to go from the planet out into space and back. It's a two-way gate. I can use this, go through to space, go to another part of space with my little jetpack on, and then I can um, pick a different portal and go down to a different planet to get around at the moment. This is not how the shipping game will ship. This is what we have at the moment. But I just seems that blue light that looks like a giant laser thing. That's just a beacon to help you find this location anywhere on the planet where you are right now. It doesn't
Okay.
actually even work for anywhere. It's just helpful sometimes. These are, I have to change my push to talk key. These gold squares are people's camps
Mm-hmm.
that they have set up
I
here.
expect camps to
You
significantly
can,
improve in quality in terms
the
of look later
floating
on.
disk thing with spikes in the middle, you can save a copy of your current person so that you can rebuild your clone if you get killed. And then there's a workstation where you can cook, and a workstation where you can make tools, and a workstation where you can craft in these bigger camps. They're not final visuals. These are just temporary, but they work well for what we're using them for to prove the concept and make sure the gameplay is fun and everything. We'll work on polish and visuals later. One of the ways that it's efficient to build a big game with a small team is to just build it to 80%. Well, no, just build it something where it's functional and then get people to try it and then tweak it and get people to try it and tweak it. So we've been inviting people for, I don't know, 3, 4 tests a week.
Man, I've
And
been
each
dying to
time
get
they
in.
come in, there's a different build that they're playing on in a series. Each time it's in a series, and we'll make tweaks and we'll put bug fixes in, listen to what they say in each test, and then come back and crank out a new one the next day. Okay, try
Mm-hmm.
this. How does this solve your previous problem? Yes, but now it does this, or no, and or yes, and great, or a lot of things
Oh,
like that.
someone just spawned in.
Does it automatically put you in a suit or just a work? Yes. It When I jump through the portal, a bubble appears over my head. I'm going to show you
Somebody's doing
actually,
some scanning.
and
There's
I
something
can
scanning.
magically run around in space. Space has a bug at the moment that wasn't
Space
here
has a
last
bug.
week.
Space is
It's not
buggy.
cold.
What is it, Star Citizens?
It's room temperature, which is hysterical. And you'll see the problem when we get in there. Hang on.
It says G to use Portal, but I like to be able to walk into it too, kind of like Minecraft. Yep, see his spacesuit's on. Beam me up, Scotty. There's no intelligent life on this planet.
Oops. Okay, I come on. I put on a couple pounds, but I got a little bubble over my
That's how I was
head,
going to
and
comment. He
I
looks
got
a
a
little
little
fatter.
spacesuit on automatically, because honestly, it's only as realistic as it needs to be fun. Fun outweighs realism at all times in this
Realism can be
game.
fun though.
Thank you, Clanor. So that's uh, now space, by the way, has completely different resources. If you just need to quickly go get some kind of rock and you don't care what it is, come out here and mine this asteroid. It's made out of peroxeries, uh, pyroxeries.
I
If
really
you
hope they have
need
ships sooner than later
metals,
because
um, many of these asteroids, the core of it inside is metal, or
otherwise,
sometimes the core is hollow,
space
but
is
there's
just another land
a
area.
layer of iron around
And
that,
so,
and then
how
there's a
much land
layer of
area do you
manganese or
need?
tungsten or chromium above the iron before you get the pyroxeries around the outside of it, or other, they come in, sometimes they're layered like a layer cake. The one I'm standing on is, um, yeah. But feel free to ask questions. The problem is my push to talk key. I'm going to turn off push to talk. Hang on, that will
There
help.
you go. When will ships be introduced?
Okay, good. Now I
Otherwise,
have to just train
space
myself not to
is
hit the push to talk key, because
just
that key
more
is auto
land play.
run in the game at the moment, and I don't want to suddenly start running headlong into a creature or whatever. We're not ready to talk about ships yet, old man observer. Space is currently weird land play. Yes, anything you can do on the ground, you can do in space. And I'm going to show
Exactly.
you a little bit about that as we go here. So
And
I'm
that's
going to turn
okay, but
around.
that's
See,
just
this
more land
person
play. I
has
want
put up a
spaceships.
camp. His camp is freaking crooked, but it works. So that's actually funny. Um, so I'm going to show you. If you if you just double jump, you will start gliding in space, and you can move around. I'm pressing the W key and moving with my mouse to do this. Oh, good. If you get next to a planet and touch it, you will stop and orient yourself on it. I am freaking being shot to death. That's not good. Thank you, Deadly Gnome, for rescuing my bacon there. All right. There are hazards in space. Should I have mentioned that? I should have remembered it, I think. There are hazards in space. Actually, I'm going to sit still for a moment and regen. Maybe I could do it in this camp. Regen a little bit of. See, if I put my mouse over it, the arrow turns into a green pointer, silver, green, and I get a G, and it makes a little sound, and it tells me I have stored my life in this matrix. Ta-da! Back out and come back. It should fix itself. Okay, thank you. All right. So I'm going to go back up to show, just backing up for a little bit, and showing you what's going on. There's the gate I came through and a portal. The stone got melted by heat effect. And because of the bug in space not being cold right now, it hasn't cooled, but it will do. Next time we come in, it'll be fixed, or eventually. So there are all different kinds of things. You can see someone has come and mined in a couple places there. Um, Yeah, there's a floating bunch of them. There's lots of them. So I'm looking around for a moment. This is a freestanding base over here. So I'm going to go over to that and hope that there's nothing to kill me. There's something on one side which is like a housing dome that you can go inside and use their tools and stuff if you don't have a camp set up. On the other side, there's probably yes. I'm going to come to this side. I didn't mean to land on the thing, but it's good enough. Now I can use the portal and go down to a different planet. I don't know if you thought that was what I was going to do. Hopefully this will take me to the jungle planet or the temperate planet.
I really hope we get
Oh,
some space
no.
flight.
Thank you for playing. Oh, you know what? The game's over, or the playtest is over. I just got, all right, never mind. I will quit.
I really hope they update the
And I
Star Street
will
screen because it does has that
uh,
Fortnite vibe,
cancel.
kitty vibe. They have been improving the
On.
graphics, so I hope they give a little
Okay.
edge to it because I think
So
that
the
turns a
game was only
lot
supposed to, the
of the
playtest
target
was only
audience
supposed to
off.
run from 10 until 1 p.m. Pacific. So I was showing you a little bit that I probably shouldn't, but yeah. So it doesn't look final yet. It's not all there, but it was fun. It is fun to go in there and do stuff and build things. When we first started, we would just give you a little piece of the game and say, please try this part out. And we would wipe your character after every session because the game was changing so much that the definitions of the character were changing. And the
Hmm.
next time you came in, if you used an old character, you couldn't move or you couldn't log in or all kinds of problems. So now, now we've got it farther. We give you a bunch of branches of things you can go off and run
EverQuest
and
next.
do. We will keep your character for a series of tests. We put them out in series. The last series was called Multi-World Part Two, and we people kept their character for a couple weeks, 3 weeks. This series today um, is Homestead is the new series, and we have tests coming up. Let's see here. Monday night, that's no day after tomorrow. Monday night, I don't even know what day it is. We're almost working 7 days a week at this point, which is not ideal. I probably shouldn't say it. Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday morning, next Saturday, we have tests coming up. Rami, do those work for you at all? The Monday night, 6 p.m., Wednesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific. Awesome for some folks. If you're in North America, those are good times. Um, if you're in Asia and you can play while you're at work during the business day, those are good times also. If you're in Europe, that sucks until next Saturday. Monday night, Wednesday, not typically. The other two were yeah, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday.
I'm about to keep my eye on the chat, see if I can get in.
And I think that's Yashi's I'm not happy face. I'm not sure. I don't speak GIF fluently, actually. Um, but but I would expect those evening playtests to be 2 hours each and not a formal greeting face. Ah, so this name. All right. Well, welcome.
I think it means my
And then the
lady.
Saturday would be probably a 3 hour test. Although I don't think the camera picked up my hand. Tip hat, yes. I tried to take off my hat this way because of the picture, but yeah. Anyway, Kuto. Wow. Okay. Can't wait to get to try this. Looks great so far. Thank you. Thank you very much. We are working our butts off on this. And we're excited about it too, and we're having fun on it too. Um, we try to do a short play test every day, because you have to keep up with everything that's going in and changing, and yeah, you'll be there Wednesday and Saturday. Excellent, excellent. And of course, keep in mind that if we have a play test and we just don't have enough people that could show up for it at that time, I will go to the general chat channel in this Discord, and I'll just say, hey, who's free right now with the next 10 people or the next 20 people X up in chat, and then open a convo with me and give me your email address. And I'm going to instantly give you a key to get in, because we need warm bodies in the test right now. That's how Choose Reality got in. Yeah. We needed warm bodies, and we didn't have enough to test, either to put enough pressure on the server for us to see the performance, or we didn't have enough people to, uh, yeah, we just needed more bodies, or it looked too empty, or anything, you know. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there, you know, I said 20 last time, and I probably gave 28 keys out because people just flooded in really fast, and it was hard to cut it off very well. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, this we have good tests, good crowds on Saturdays. When if it's Saturday at 10 a.m. and we told people in advance,
Yeah,
people show up. When
I
it's a
can see that.
new test and new functionality that they haven't had before, people show up for that. But some of the midweek ones can be tricky because, you know, some of our hardcore folks just can't come at that time of day, or they've got a job, they've got, to sleep or whatever. So people can't just play games all day. Go ahead. Go ahead, Dave. You can snipe. You can snipe all you want. You there with your purple name. Um, yeah, 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 yeah. You're if all your only bad days are Mondays and Thursdays, you lead a charmed life, sir. Let's just say that. Anyway, are there any questions? Does anybody was anyone in the test today want to come up and tell people how it went, or talk about it? Actually, there's still some folks in, I think. And is Rod in here? I think Rod's busy, but do I see Rod in here? Oh, I do. Rod San.
We're gonna look at some of
Oh,
these a little
there's
bit
Control
closer.
Chaos.
Hey,
Come on up.
yeah, so I was in the test, and what I really like is the surveying. I remember in the first
Oh,
several tests before that, trying to find the resources. We were having to ask the devs, we were having to ask other players who knew where those spots were. Being able to survey and find those spots myself and look
okay.
around was really
Help
good.
help me, because I'm not sure I understand how to do this yet. You're not talking about using the prospect ability on the excavator, right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about,
Okay.
is the
So you've
prospect and
pictured this thing, you guys, that uh, uh, it looks like a BFG 9000 or something, but it's a mining tool. And you point it at it in a beam, and it sucks stuff into a hopper.
Hmm.
But if you hit the tab key, you can switch between modes. You can switch it to a prospecting mode. And then when you push the button, whatever you've got that gun pointed at, it will tell you what it is. Oh, that's basalt. Oh, that's,
Here's
you
another
know,
one.
peroxeries. Oh, that's slate. There's a lot of slate. Every now and then you get, oh, that's tungsten. Well, hell yeah. And you dig it all up. But
So,
and then later you add on the ability to what's the time related thing? And then you accidentally make a giant puddle of lava and burn yourself, and you're like, oh, no, I forgot it. Chronophasing, yes. Ugh, I've almost killed myself with that. And all I was trying to do was dig up dirt. Yeah, crazy. Keep going, controlled.
so the other thing
You were using it.
is not just the prospecting and oh that's this. It's the fact that oh I'm looking for this and oh it's in your area and this is where it's at. That's the big thing that changed.
Okay, I don't know how to do that part yet. How
So
how
yeah,
are you
it's
doing that part?
so the way you're
Is it
doing
just more
that
skill?
is it's the same tool, your prospecting tool to get harvest minerals and stuff like that, and then you go into the one where um you're not extracting but you're prospecting, and then you can hit Q and E and it will go through a list of the different resources, whether it be
I've seen that.
gems,
Okay.
soil, metal, and then once you have the
Yeah.
one you want, you hit tab again, and then you actually hit E and it will do this ping out in the world and it will highlight areas where that is if it's in the area. So it's like I was looking for magnete manganese, I believe it was. And so I
Yeah.
just went to the different worlds looking for that, and it's like, oh, okay, it's in this area, and now I just have to dig it out of the ground. The other thing I
Okay.
like is the fact that when you clear out your hopper, it no longer creates this solid mass that just sits there. It creates gravel that just slowly falls apart and creates a little mound. That's a nice
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it better too. Definitely. Um, so Rod, are you still in the game? Oh, you
Yes, I
are.
am.
I see. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I direct your attention to the crazy man on the screen there. He's what planet is that? The desert?
This is our desert.
Yep. All right. So are you the only one in at the moment?
Kind of.
No.
Other
What are
developers are
you
still in.
doing over there? If you click on that window, you can get a bigger view of it. If you didn't realize it, are you are you chronofacing? Yeah, you are.
Yeah, this is chronophasing the sand, as he was describing.
And
So
then you're
that's
going
where
to
you can
make. Are
forward
you
in time or
making
reverse in
glass?
time. So you can take
Is that what
sand
you're
into
doing?
Not
glass,
in
for
this
example.
case.
Okay.
Let me switch over to here. So
But
you can
it
see this
can
glass
naturally
turning into
happen
sand
over
right here,
time too.
which is what he was
Yeah.
describing. And then if I switch over
Nice.
to my extractor,
How is
pick it
there
up.
a
Oh,
ratio of real time
It's there
you
somewhere.
got
to
it.
gave time
How many of you did not
for
know that glass
simulation?
was made out of
Like,
sand
how
before this game?
fast does a tree grow and die
Just give me a hard time.
and
Now he's
stars
dumping his
reach?
gravel out.
Day,
Nice.
week,
I try to always look for
month,
somewhere appropriate to
year.
put it. You should never gravel on your own driveway. Is there a ratio of real time to game time for simulation? Like how fast does a tree grow and die and stars reach and day and week and month and year? Yeah, and you would think that it might be synchronized. For example, it's not. The day and the night cycle, for example, is it every 20 minutes? It goes through the whole thing. Um, the every it's every 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Geez, it's okay. And then the season cycle. We don't. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this yet. Day is 4 minutes, night is 4 minutes. Okay. All right. We're not talking about seasons. Sorry, my mistake. Oops. I do it too. I know. Okay. There are various cycles, and they're not connected to each other in terms of scale. And the trees have a couple of rates of growth, by the way. They have their natural rate of growth if you just leave them in the world. And then they have accelerated growth if you use a growth beacon on them, or if you put down a growth beacon and then use the helix tool on them, for example. I can't answer the speed at which a tree grows. It would be like uh, European or African, type of thing. Anyway, what else is going on? There was a question. Do we also get magic tree grain beams? Yep. Make a diorite floor. Oh, yeah, no. Seasons. Yeah. Sorry about that leak. Will a tree grow if a given grid if nobody's there? It depends if the climate is amenable to the tree. But yes, they will grow and they'll eventually throw off seedlings in that area and they'll grow too, as long as it likes the climate and the weather and the
Tell you this
hydrology and
this is the
everything.
cool thing about Stars Reach. No MMO
Um,
is doing shit
yeah,
like
the
that.
day-night cycle
Nobody.
is temporary right now.
And it's
It's at
built
demo
into
speed,
the
not
ground
launch game
up, so
speed.
I don't
Yeah,
expect
some things
performance
are
issues related to
easier to
that per se.
test and easier to demo if you crank up the
They
speed
may need to tweak
and
it, but it won't be because
intensity of
the
things.
architecture is flawed. The
But
architecture is built with this from the
yeah,
ground up.
that's not how you want to live later. Tree seed spreading. It's independent of anyone being present. Yep. I just like knights in the game right now. You and me both. I made a joke to Dave yesterday and said, if we pay extra for an expensive subscription, can we only have day cycle and skip night? He's like, no. So so with Fireside, technically we can cross-pollinate planets, right? Um, I don't know what you mean by that. But maybe. Give me a light on my mining hat. You have one on outside in outer space. You have a light system like you're talking about. Um, right now, if you're on a planet and it's deep night and there's no light sources nearby, your mining thing will give off a glow while you're using it. So if you've got the button pressed and you're actively mining, it gives you some light to work by. But
I
that's
don't
it.
understand. Night will get brighter
And
on
yeah, it
Friday. The
will.
Friday
Night will
update, night will
eventually
get
be less
brighter.
dark, if that makes any sense. Yeah, nighttime is horrible for building in Pax Day right now. They're not anywhere near finished either. Yeah. The only thing I've come across that's easier at night is finding the um, survey nodes sometimes. If you're looking for the flashing red survey nodes,
It's probably
those
easier
can
to
be
see at night.
seen a
Yeah.
little bit easier sometimes from a distance at night because the some of the other distractions are harder to see around them. Oh, Stressman, do you want to come on up and tell us what you thought? You got invited. All right, here you go.
Hey, am I on?
Welcome. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah, you were talking about mining and stuff and how dark it was. I was actually mining on a desert planet and fell into a cavern, a random cavern. That was really weird.
Yep.
Yeah, once I got into
Wait.
it, I probably fell, it felt like you were 40 feet, but I had the gravity mesh so I could slow myself to where I landed. And then I just started walking around. It was really cool. Finding something random like that is really cool.
I slipped through a hole today too, and fell into an underground cavern that I didn't realize was there. Took half my health points and damage. Got up and thought, okay, this is interesting. Look around. Started to go in one direction, and then there
Was asking
was
for his
a
first
crowd
person
of,
playing for this game.
a cluster of hostile creatures in the air. And I thought, oh, let's go the other direction. Oh, crap. How do I get out of here?
Yeah, I found some owl deer down in there and prowler.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful. Oh, prowlers.
And like you were saying on
Yeah.
the prospecting, or not the prospecting, the surveying, if it's real dark, I go way up on the tall mountains and look out, and then you can see everything flashing.
Yep. Is there a first person mode planned for the day? Um, that's on the cards. I don't know when it will come, but uh Dave is saying yes, it's coming. We can't tell you when, but it's one of those things that will be in.
Excellent.
There are
Excellent.
reasons why not to make it one of the first things you do, but it's definitely something you want to do. Okay, upgrades. Prowlers, yes. Takes a long time to dig out of those places in the desert with the sand falling back. Yep. Any plans to open up beta keys to other avenues than invites? Eventually, yes.
Eventually, you'll be able to buy
Right
it.
now, we're we're pretty early days, and we can only do so much. But
Hmm.
soon.
Soon.
Um, but honestly, it might not open up a lot until early 2025, which is not that far away, frankly. It's not. Um,
Is there any
it will.
is there
Yeah.
any
Go
idea
ahead.
like if we're going to add any more planets?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought so.
I don't know anything too much about the planet stuff. I mean, I saw um, the devlog that Megan did. Did you see the devlog this week? From Math to Mushrooms, it was called, and
Yeah.
it he talked about the procedural planet generation tool that we built, and why it's different from No Man's Sky or other type of procedural generators. Oh, that's it. Thank you, Lyric. You linked it in chat for us. Um, from math to mushrooms. I wonder if I said that right. Check it out. It's pretty cool. We have some talented people on this team. Uh,
There was a
my,
lot of cool stuff that was new in the prospecting and some of the other stuff, the new tools.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're listening to what people are saying in these tests. When we're running them, a lot of people are crammed into the voice channel and are talking through their experiences. Some of them are typing them out onto the forum there, and the team is listening to it and copying and pasting it to each other, and the designers are tweaking things, and the engineers are seeing bugs and trying to fix them. And the
The
next
question
time
I
we
asked
come
is, given the
back,
procedural
it builds
generation that's
better.
in place, is the universe
Uh,
infinite? Will
you
it be able
can
to fly and discover worlds forever?
see
I seen
the
on the help desk they
changes
had
happen.
added stuff to that too, like or the F1 key. You added things where you can see, the
Let's
skill
get some of these
trees are
images
changed
here.
and stuff like that.
See, Dave, people do look at the F1.
I had to. It was all new.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever get stuck in this game, look at
It
F1.
did help a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
F1 is your help right there. That's really good.
he's he puts a lot of effort into that, and he's convinced no one ever looks at it.
Well, I seen it because I was looking at the different skills because I want to know what was added, and then it also allowed you to not just pursue after one skill. You could go after different ones. You don't have to use everything. You can go after whatever you want, surveying, prospecting, or
We're
not
gonna
prospecting, but surveying,
we're gonna look at these
or
images a little bit more
mineralogy
closely
and other ones.
after
I'll
chat's
tell
over.
you what, Dave wrote that thing, and he still goes back and looks at things
Ooh, I
on
don't
there
think I've
because
seen
he
that
can't
one.
remember all that stuff either. You know,
Oh, I'm sure he's probably on there all the time.
yeah, I'm giving him a hard time.
It's okay. He can handle it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I don't get to do that very much at work, so this is fun. Uh, let's see,
Reading the
let's
manual. A lot of
see,
people don't read
F1 and the
manuals.
rebinding consumables, super handy. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
see
I
Dave
saw a
too.
couple bosses lately. There's a king prowler that's horrible. It's horrible. Don't try to tackle it by yourself. You're an idiot. It takes a group. There was another thing I saw today that I've
Horde
never
Stalker.
seen before,
That's kind of the question
and it
I was
took
wondering.
it took a group of people to bring it down too. At least you could tell immediately because it was 11 times the size
Because I
of a
was wondering if you
normal
can wipe
one,
out a planet. Can you
and
delete entire planets with
it was,
miners if
yeah,
you're
it was
Yeah,
dedicated
I
terrible.
run
enough?
into that, the Horde Stalker.
Yeah, that was my first time to see it. Yeah, I didn't see where it came from. Yeah, it was just boom.
My understanding
Suddenly
is
it's
limits to
there,
the
and it's the
height
size of a
and the depth
building.
that you can build, kind of like Bedrock
Yeah,
in
it was cool. I
Minecraft.
run into the
So I would
Velociraptors
say
too.
probably not. You can't delete an entire planet.
Well, those are different. If you scare the bunny rabbits in the wild, a certain percentage of them will just go rabid, and they will turn into these velociraptor things. It's
Yeah,
like the
that's what I did.
vocal
I shot
bunny
one and they
thing.
ended up all
Yeah,
turning.
yeah. See, well, you pissed them off. That's on that's on you, dude. But yeah, they get mean at that point.
Yeah.
They'll eat your legs, and you're stuck there. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, a lot of people were using the new tools, to do the homesteading. That was really fun.
Yeah, I saw one person. I this shocked me. I saw one enclosure of someone's homestead in progress. I saw the golden honeycomb shaped yeah, pattern around it,
What planet was
and
that on?
inside this was jungle, and inside it was chock full, just chock full of super thick jungle, like they had planted palm trees and put a growth beacon and just let it go wild for an hour, and it was thick, almost impassable jungle, and I thought, wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen one over
I
on
couldn't even
Desert
tell if
Planet
there was a
too.
building. Yeah, it was very cool.
I
I
think they had
wonder,
like 3 or 4 people building at the same time in that area.
because the world is simulated,
Yes, there were. Yes.
will you just have
Yeah.
trees and stuff growing everywhere and
They had some
changing?
new cats over there. I can't remember what they were called. They were the Prowler or something, or they were black.
Yeah, prowlers. Uh, I think there are versions of the prowlers too, but yeah, they were.
Was it
Let's see here. What's
Barasa Prowler?
the hardest? Let's see here.
Hopefully, Dave
What's
hears and
the
Horde
can answer.
Master.
hardest mob
No, that's not the thing I
to
saw.
kill
Uh,
in the
it,
game
it
right
was
now?
like, well, maybe it is. I can't tell from
Just see,
there. I'm going to
ask a
click.
question, give
Dave,
them some
are
interaction.
there versions of the prowler other than the king prowler thing? Maybe that is what I saw. But this guy was huge, and he was just above the grass, and he was wreaking havoc. And he was every time you hit him, it took so little damage. It was going to take an
I hadn't
hour.
seen them before. It looked really cool.
Yeah,
Very aggressive.
yeah, very painful. Yeah,
You learn how to climb fast.
yeah,
Horde Master, Roach Master.
And see, today was all new, refreshed. so I didn't have the
So they have
grav mesh,
Yeah,
none of
we-
that.
invite
So
only
couldn't
playtests
fly.
right now, and so their playtest
Yeah.
just ended. So some of the people that are in this Fireside
The
chat
grav mesh,
got to play
if you
today.
didn't know, is a little jetpack that attaches to your back, and it will let you do short flights, but it drains your stamina while you use it, so you have to rest afterwards. But it doesn't go very far, and you can kill yourself if you don't do it right. Because if you just go up into the sky and run out of stamina, you will fall to the earth, which is fine until you get to the earth and then you die. But
It's the impact that hurts.
yeah. But that you can help you get out away sometimes. And some of these
Will
horrible creatures,
all
like
resource
the king
gathering
prowler, are restricted
have
to the
to
ground.
be
They don't
done on
fly.
the
So
person,
if you can fly away,
or will
you can
there
get away.
be
Or sometimes you can climb a
gathering
tree.
Not getting away from the
devices
ball hogs or the sky sharks.
we can build
No,
up to?
those. Um, yeah. Sky sharks are not so bad if you get one group by itself and you get it from start from a
It's like
distance
I'm asking
and
questions
you
and
get the
they're just
drop
still
on
chatting
them.
about how much fun they had playing
Or
the
if you've
game.
got a friend working with you. But they're terrible if there's more than one group and
Like I
you,
want to get
yeah.
my questions
Or if
answered.
they get the drop on you.
Yeah, usually on top of the mountains, all grouped together.
One question, will fall damage eventually affect creatures and will water drown? Yeah. Don't know when yet, but yeah. By the way, if you catch fire, going into the water right now does not put it out. Just
It should.
FYI. Uh, will all resources gathering have to be done on person? Or will there be gathering devices to build up to? We shall see. Yes, we don't know yet. That is still under active discussion.
Who is?
I like
Now,
that you
now,
can cheese them a bit. Yes. I did notice the return behavior, though. You can actually get away now if you're fast enough. Not from a prowler. Dude, prowlers are faster than you. Um, at least I have never been able to run away from them.
I think today we increased the
Grapple helps.
trees too, didn't he?
so they haven't decided if
The
gathering will
number of
always have to be
trees,
done by a
Yeah,
person in the
I
game,
think
I don't
or
Rapper
will there
know.
be
David
means
said
of
something about
gathering
it.
it, with some kind of equipment?
It seemed like there were more.
I wasn't in voice comms up there. Although no one, I didn't get people asking me
I'm
help
kind of
questions on the help
curious.
desk thing,
Who
so I probably won't do
is
that
Ralph
next
on
time.
the? We have some
Just play.
devices eventually.
We have
And
chronophasing
Dave
for
is
resource
the other one, or is Dave
transformation,
the other one? I'm gonna
but
guess
we
that
also
Ralph is
have
okay with the
quenching or
devices just because
cold
of the Star Wars Galaxy part of it.
water for phase transformations. Um, um,
Oh, that's cool. Can
that's
I
a
save that?
that's a good question for Dave. Huh. Oh yeah, there's Jess. Jess Deer is showing us a little bit of how uh, the grav mesh works. He flew over the lava. That's handy. Yeah, they have a hard time hitting us while we're doing that.
We're
I
gonna
put
dig
one
into
of
all these pictures after the Fireside chat and see what we can discern.
See, that piece of night is not too dark. Yeah, grav mesh is wonderful.
I just posted a picture of the snow glurp on top of the mountains.
Oh,
Do I
yeah,
see a picture
yep,
of
yep.
snow in the mountains?
That was cool.
I must have posted it somewhere else.
Okay, Rod says, not really more trees. We thin them out a bit, really. They do repopulate themselves over time, though, so there's
Oh,
less
that might
clear
have been it.
cutting going on. Yeah, grav mesh was my first thing I crafted too, followed by grappler. you know,
Well, I
anyone
guess
who
I'll get off and
remembers
let
their
somebody else speak.
sure. Thanks, Dressman.
Hey, thanks for
And
letting me.
anytime. Jaredar has the shield
I need
up
to
in
look at
that
this Dave
image
Georgeson
there.
what games he's worked
And
on.
it is hard in combat to remember you've got a shield and to activate it at the right time. They don't last forever. You only get them for, X period of time at a time. Then they have a cooldown, but they're very helpful and should be remembered. Anyone who remembers their shield has a distinct combat advantage.
Remembers their shield.
I don't know, Mr. Gosh darn. I don't know whose side you're on there. Yeah, shield and dodge are both really important. Yeah,
Their shield if they are dead.
absolutely. And just jumping
Got a
up
decent
and down
crowd. We
like
got
a crazy
58 people
person
here on the
doesn't work.
Fireside chat.
You need better
Ooh,
dodging
that
than
looks
that.
neat. So we're going to dig into that. What is this? Looks like he's laying out the foundation or something. Like I said, we'll pull those up on a bigger screen.
You guys are funny. I use the screaming and flailing approach. Sometimes that works, you know. We have 5 kinds of shields designed, but only 2 are implemented.
I wonder if the shields like provide different type of
Remember, those are
damage.
good designs.
Ooh, are there different types of damage? Um, kinetic, energy,
What else is going
etc.
on?
And then you can have shields for those different types of
Are there
damages.
different types of damage? Yes. Yes, there are. If you are in the game right now playing, you will quickly discover there's heat and cold,
Heat and
for
code, yep.
example, and then there's just kinetic damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. The best shield is the friends you brought along, especially the slow
Yeah.
ones
Those
who
are all
can't run
straight
away as
from Star
well.
Wars Galaxy. At least Star Wars Galaxy's had a lot of those. Acid, things like that. Corrosion sounds like acid.
Okay, will we have abilities or specials to reinforce recharge shields during combat? There are charged attacks and things, depending on which weapon or what gear you have. Yes, that. But stuff for the shields. There are things for the shields in combat besides just turning it on. Heat, cold, kinetic, corrosion, and shock are in the game now. There are about 8 more planned. Nice. The ice damage
I don't know if my
especially
streamer
makes
bot's
it
not
much
running. Let
harder
me
to
put
just
him
keep
up.
running away. Yeah, because they would temporarily freeze you in place, and you're
Ooh,
just stuck
another
there
picture.
going, what happened to me? Why am I blue? Oh, I know. Yeah.
Lots of pictures to digest when we get off this. Can't wait.
Yeah, there are attacks that will stop the strafing. Will we be able to craft multiple things at a time? Yeah, definitely.
Oh God, yes.
The best shield is no shield. Oh, Yashimasta. That is not correct. Freed from the tyranny of a shield.
We
Alpha
barely
key,
scratch the
please.
surface of
I know
status
I don't have
effects
any
like
keys
frozen
at
and
the
on
moment to
fire.
hand out.
You're definitely going
I
to want to
froze up a
make
couple
status
times and it
removal
surprised me.
medicines and
Yeah,
have a
me
friend with
too.
a helix
Me
soon.
too
Okay.
today. We've barely scratched the surface of status effects like frozen and on fire. We had another one in the test. Maybe that was an internal test only, where if someone was sick, they could give someone else the sickness by passing too close to them. It was fun. And if you're on fire and you run into your friend, you can catch your friend on fire too. giving is love, something like that. I don't know. And then we'll have status removal effects. Yeah, like Dave mentioned, where you can uh, heal someone who's been poisoned or diseased or on fire or whatever. Will there be shields for the eyes to guard
Let's
from the
see here.
horrors of war? No. Poison was mentioned.
Entertainment profession.
Yes. Awesome. I really
Do
can't wait for
you
the
think
Helix to get more love.
players will
Yes,
be
I
able
agree.
to compose
The
their own
poison
music
remedy is in the game already. The cure-all. Okay.
or copyright
Flame
an
out is for
issue?
fire. Thaw bones is for frozen. Yeah, it was like Kenator. It was a little bit like, wow, yes. Raccoon. Raccoon. Yeah, I like the Helix, but it needs a little bit more love. Best thing at the moment, also happening in game. Peopleton working together. Yeah, building, harvesting,
That's cool.
exploring.
So
If
Star Wars Galaxy, the
if
music was
I'm running
great.
around
You
the
had
place
lots
and
of
I see somebody
music and all the instruments and
extracting or
stuff you could come
harvesting or
up
doing
with,
something
even with the number of songs they had. You could
that
come up
is
with all
not
kinds of
obvious,
variations depending
I
upon the
stop and ask them,
music instruments they were
"What are
playing.
you?
But
What are
there was a
you
finite
mining?"
limit.
And if they tell me, I'll help. And then afterwards, if you stand close to some other person and you mouse over them, you can get the G key to interact, and then you can pick something from your inventory and
Will
gift it
I
to them
be
and
able
put it
to
into their
create my
inventory.
own
So if they're mining
quests
manganese, you can
that
mine some
other
manganese and then
players
put it in their bag for them.
can do?
It's very polite. Very polite. Oh, sky sharks are getting a buff. Dave, they're a pain in the ass already.
Awesome. So this is huge. I mean, a sandbox, people
Okay,
do sandbox where they
now
don't give people the ability to
Old
create
Man Observer is
quests.
asking about music, and we're not ready to talk about music yet. Music's got a bit of a problem in
Yeah.
that our CEO, Ralph, is a musician. So his standards are very high for what he wants implemented for music in this game. I worked for another CEO once who was really into baseball as his hobby. And anybody who worked on a baseball game was like tortured because he would come and his expectations were generally unreasonable.
yeah.
So, uh,
But you'll be able to create your own
yeah,
quests that other people
things
can
that you
do.
don't
You
know when you
need
take a
that
job
for
somewhere.
a
Is my boss going to
sandbox.
be
Imagine if PAX Day had it.
breathing down my
We,
neck
we
all
got
the
the
time?
guy,
Yeah,
Lord
things that
Scar in our
happen.
group who comes up with all
Yeah,
these
so I
cool
don't
little
know when the
things. And if
music's
he
going to be
actually could build a
ready, sir.
questing game, it would be awesome.
I
You have
don't, yeah,
infinite
it might be a
content.
while
You
on
see
that
with
before it's good
Skyrim
enough that we could show
and
it
the
or talk about
mods,
it.
it makes Skyrim infinitely
Will
playable
I
because
be
there's
able to
so many
create my own
mods that do
quests
stuff. Allow
that
people
other
to
players can do?
build
Yes,
quests.
there
That's
is a
just huge.
system for that coming, and
Simulation and quests in
uh,
this game are going to put it above
yeah,
everybody else.
it will probably
Imagine
come
Star
in
Citizen if
phases
I could generate
and
my
be
own
fairly
quests that other
simple
people
at
could do.
first, and then get more
Imagine PAX
complicated
Day
as
if
time
I
goes
could
by.
generate a quest in game and let other people do it. Infinite
Were you
content.
planning for all the music for entertainers to be race specific or themed? Or did I mishear that on a previous test? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Sky Sharks. The lag makes them pretty tough, though, Dave. With Chris Roberts of music implementation. Yeah. Don't make a soundtrack, but instead have a system for players to make the soundtrack. You're going to make Kurt cry. I would lose my mind if you had the ability to compose new music in game. I think that's part of what they're thinking about. Yeah, that's because that's a one trick pony right now. They just charge us That's not super interesting.
That'd be cool.
Can I use
Make your
Sky Sharks to
quests,
make
make your
fish
own
and chips?
music.
They do, in fact,
That's how
drop
you
fish
do it.
meat, but you still need potatoes somewhere else. It's not like sky sharks are running around with a small brown paper sack with your meal in their hands waiting for you, and magically it's hot whenever you want it. No. Let's see. The drone weapon was very good for shark fishing, you guys. The drone weapon is harder to use than the initial blaster you get.
Do you
Just keep that in
plan
mind.
on any
You have to aim better.
books to coincide with the game?
Okay. Are there lemons for seasoning the fish too? Huh. Wait, there are lemons, aren't there? Or were they limes? I saw some lemons or limes on the jungle
I'm just
planet
curious
or
how
the
they plan on
desert
doing the
planet. I can't
lore.
remember which. Both, I think. Okay.
Ooh, another gift. Let's grab him.
Both. Oh yeah, the ring nodes yeah, those are really good. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot to be said for the drone weapons. Plus, it feels like you have two pets with you floating around you. Choo, 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 choo. But you have to aim a little bit better. It's if you can tell where to shoot in advance of it, lead the target. Those are a good weapon for you to
Luminous
consider.
and luminous.
Yeah, jungle has lemons, limes, coconuts, and bananas. And we put the lime and the coconut next to each other. It's nice. Very convenient. Let's see. Yeah. Shield looks amazing now. Yes. Jungle Planet is luminous and liminous. Yes. Both. Uh, and then, yeah, drones do double damage if both shots hit because each drone fires and they will
So
shred
this is
things
something
that
I haven't
target you.
quite caught around. There seemed to be some
The
ability
stuff that
where you
flanks
can
can be a
shoot,
pain to hit,
but then
though.
you also have drones that can
But
shoot
drones are
with you.
fire damage and
That
ball
sounds kind
hugs
of
are
neat.
basically immune. What? That's terrible. Jungle Planet needs sugarcane so we can make rum. Then it can be the true party planet. Okay. 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 Thank you, Dave. Have a great afternoon. Stay out of trouble. Uh, let's see, for all the builders, using the Shift, Q, and E technique is a must for now.
Shift Q
It
and E
helps avoid
technique.
misclicking other building items and more precise placement, too. Placement's going to get better. We want things to line up and everything. It's going to get better. But yes, thank you, Island Time. May there be many coconuts on your island. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate your help on this to help us get the game better, get it in shape, before other people come in to check it out. Pretty sure it's but could we hold down the tab to pull up a wheel so we can cycle through which mode we want instead of cycling through? Dave, jeez, jeez. Not clicking any of those.
I wonder how
Um,
long these fireside
the,
chats go.
yeah, I know what you mean. If you use the Z key, it brings up a ring like that you can pick which food you want to eat or which medicine you want to take or something like that. That we could use that. It's the F key now. Okay, Z, move to F. We can use that user interface for more things in the future than just that. The the UI is, as you know very well, it changes all the time, and the radial menu could be a lot more useful. And you're describing a use case um, outside of combat anyway, where you're picking between tools and modes on tools. I hear you. I agree. I don't know what all of our plans are for UI, but I know it's not
Done.
it's not there yet. This
The
is
50 people are
not what
still
it's
in.
all supposed to, be like. Not yet. Could be dial a main item to use as combat use and then tap F to use it. Yeah, maybe. A lot of things that were tap F to interact have become G now. Maybe most things. We are running a bit low on time. Yeah, I would really like to just assign an item to a key. We're going to give um, some ability to assign keys to, eventually. We're just not there yet. All right, Beanstalk Head, come on up and give us your thought.
Hi. So
Hi.
it's great to test it today, and I loved all the new features and everything that's been updated since the last test. But I wanted to recap my testing experience before the end of the Fireside. But in the previous tests, I've been focusing on building and unlocking the tools associated with building.
Mm-hmm.
So for this test, I started with mining so that I could maximize my yield in the skill tree so that I could get the most for what I mined for. And in this game, you have to actually mine to get XP in the associated skill tree, and that was mineralogy. So I got the maximum yield, and then I used the new prospecting feature to look for copper, and I mined a ton of copper, and um, that's going to help later for when I need to make tools. I got civil engineering, but I didn't put it to use immediately. Uh, I was kind of looking for a place to plan our city out, so I started by collecting all the survey points, or I should say, I started on the jungle planet. So I was looking around for all the survey points, and then I found a pretty flat area where we could start. So, well, I'm kind of skipping some steps here, but I did craft a grav mesh and a grapple hook, and like the movement in this game, it feels so smooth. Like I was flying around, I was grappling around,
Good.
getting on mountains, but also being chased by a lot of ball hives, and they were using their
I was watching a lot of the technical videos that last session, and you could tell they worked a lot on the movement and how it feels, and it sounds like with the players playing it, it's smooth and fun.
a wall or a an area where we could put our homesteads at, and everybody just came over and wanted to start the city. Um, but yeah, that was pretty much the start of our city, and
If
I'm
you
glad everybody
build
wanted to come
it,
to
they
found
will
one.
come.
And it was great seeing all the plots of land, but I can't wait for the next test to start building it out and maybe organizing things on Discord. Who owns this plot of land, or who wants to set up this land, or it's going to
This
be
land is your
awesome. I
land.
can't wait.
This land is my land.
Island.
Something to just add to what Beanstalk's talking about. One thing I finished with building, because I'm going to be huge on this, is the foundation pieces. Actually, I sent a screenshot into the chat. You got to scroll up a few pages to see it. I didn't realize that you don't have to use platforms. You can use the foundation, which is a platform on top of a big old piece of block, and then using Q and E or Shift Q and E, it helps to move around the object, so you can use Y to have it go up and down. And so the whole intention of this is if you do run into an uneven area, to start putting down something nice and flat to build it all, then you can use those very simply. I actually have to replace the middle section because I started with like a diorite floor and put on platforms on top of it, and then realized
Right.
they're off by like the thickness of a platform if you do it that way. So, anyways, I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. I'm, you know, you're going to have one of the first best houses out there. I have to check them out.
I'm curious what they're
EQ2, I
talking
used
about this
to enjoy
alignment.
going
If
around
things
and seeing
snap
people's
right,
houses.
alignment shouldn't be that
But
big of a
I'll
deal.
throw out a
so,
hint of what mine's going to be. It's related to Ultima Online.
oh, okay. Nice.
It is so novel to own a place in a virtual world, and like you can make your dream home in it.
Yeah.
Oh, also I forgot to talk about paving. Um, I planned out the roads, and if you can see in some of the
This looks like a good
screenshots,
image.
there's kind of like an intersection pattern. I don't know what you would call that. You know, like a grid. Um, I planned out those roads so that people can put their houses on the side or in away from the road so they could get to it. But it's really cool to be able to plan out things with the paver and make roads. Like I don't think there's any game that I know of that has like a tool to make roads specifically. You kind of have to use blocks, or in Minecraft, you just have or well, no,
This
Minecraft
the
does have the
same
shovel,
picture?
so you can pave blocks with it. But still, this is really cool to be able to use that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for helping to build the city, and it's so fun to test. I can't wait to test more, but I'm so excited. But all right, I'm gonna leave the stage. Goodbye.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to come up and talk about what they're doing in game or what they enjoyed or anything?
I wish I could come up and talk about what I was doing in game,
Okay.
but I haven't got on yet.
uh, all right. Well, thank you very much, guys. We had a lot of fun. We had a little bit of a fire drill just before the servers opened, so we were uh, we were hustling there. Sorry for the slightly late start. And then we did a 3 hour test, and then we did a 1 hour plus fireside. So I'm ready for a break and some ice cream, I think. So I'm gonna say go enjoy your Saturday or wherever it is where you are, and have a great day. We will be back in the game on Monday night, uh, and hopefully you can join us.
I
Talk to
hope
you
I can
soon.
sneak in. I'm gonna just watch that. All right, that's my first fireside chat. Cool. So let's pop out some of these. Let's see. Let me move that over. Let's bring this up. Oh, come on. Why can you not grab? What is going on? What in the world? There we go. All right. Take a look at some of these images a little bit more closely here. Bring that up. There we go. So this is the first one. So So I've seen a lot of these brown buildings, futuristic like walls. So this is the first one I've seen that looks like wood, very Minecrafty. But you know, again, to me, the important thing is we have some different blocks to build with. Otherwise, everything's going to look the same. Got some foundation pieces. Got some squares. Square plots appears to be the case. That's a camp, and so this must be a homestead plot. That's probably a homestead plot. Maybe. I can't tell exactly what that device is right there. He has a camp. I wonder if that is his camp and you have to build it maybe to kind of get up and start it, and then you can start building your homestead. All right, that's the first one. Let's just close these out as we finish them. Alrighty, so this is an interesting looking guy here. And not too sure what he was showing. Just some cants off to the distance. They got this mesh grid, which is probably showing where the height is, or where you can see height-wise where your plot is or camp that you're trying to do. Which I kind of like that. You don't necessarily see that as easily sometimes in Pack-Stay, especially when you're putting it on water. And it'd be nice to have that kind of come up and see it. This is an interesting. So this person must have put a plot down and then threw a bunch of trees down to plant them. You can see, in fact, he's grown them. So he threw his plant down, and then he planted a bunch of. He threw his plot down, then he threw down a bunch of tree seeds, I guess, and then started growing them with the time device. I can't remember what they call it, but yeah. There's that one. So he's doing something cube-wise here. So this is the gun he has, Terraformer. I'm assuming this is what he has selected. But I really don't know what's going on here. But it's clearly some blocks and outlining something here, but I don't know what the goal is or what would happen right there. Now this, we're going to some caves and terraforming it. In fact, you can see he's mining stuff out, so it's taking the land, removing it, and then extracting the resources out of it. And looks like that as the terraformer device is highlighted. Aquamarine. All right, now we're out here on an asteroid. Look like some building. Looks like we got some lava. This is a neat little building down here. Let's look at that. So somebody's got their little house down there. Little platform. And this guy's got a super high resolution, or was able to get a high resolution on that image. So don't know what he's doing here. Cool. So the trees on fire, they highlighted for some reason. He's got this pathfinder, so it's probably highlighted. It's got this pathfinder gun selected. And so it's probably highlighting something. Again, we're out here on a planet, or out in the asteroid. That looks almost like a ship, but it's not. I don't know what this person's doing to here. Has the Omni Blaster selected. Whatever that does. This guy's doing some terraforming. So cool. Right here, you can see some more different type foundations from that other picture we saw before. And we got a lot selected here. So you must have to place your camp down to start building your homestead. I don't know what's going on here. Did this fall down? Was this up and then he removed a piece and it fell down? It looks like some structure integrity issues happened. Or did he just place it there and it just fell down? He didn't have the right pieces to support it. Another interesting one. Yeah. Don't know what's going on there. Okay, so let's go a little view. You can see all the campsites out and about. Campsites and probably homesteads, maybe. Are they all campsites? I think this is the trees that we saw earlier. So that person did his plot and then grew a bunch of trees in his plot. That almost looks like that from earlier. I don't know if we can see anything else here. The little water. Hopefully you can get plots right in water and I can build bridges and stuff. And docks. I wonder if boats will be in the game. I'll have to ask that on the next chat. All right, here's our first video. Can I zoom this in? Let's see here. See if we get some terrible quality. So this is fighting the Horde Master. So it looks like a beholder. We've got some lava going on there. I wonder if he was fighting by lava or did he intentionally try to do something with lava and have it affect the mob. I am unclear of that. Yeah, that's cool though, fighting and then jumping up and jetpacking around and then coming back down. That's a little bit interesting aspect. That's kind of neat. There's a lot in this short little clip. Looks like he has an Omni Blaster selected. Alright, so what do we got here? I think I need to go back to normal zoom. Alright, there we go. So, don't really see a whole lot here. Has the Pathfinder selected. Got a tree, some bushes. Don't really see much there. Alright, this must be, only assuming, so this is where the person must have put their camp to start working on its plot. They put a plot down, and then this must be laying out a foundation. That's all I can assume is what that is. Has the Instaformer. So the Terraformer for land, Instaformer for building, I assume. Trailblazer. So gun, building, land manipulation, and Trailblazer. Looks like some heavy manufacturing, so not too sure. But then Trailblazer makes me think it has to do with land and trailblazing. Yeah, you can see another angle picture here. So he's got his plot down, he's laying his foundation down. Hopefully we have some ability to get some curves in there. Everything being squared can get owed. Hopefully we can rotate things and get some square and some angle plots or angle foundations and walls and whatnot, so that you can kind of get some unique structures in place. So hopefully everything won't be blocky and square. Diorite block. So he's laying down some diorite blocks, I assume. He has this Instaformer. He has this selected, so that's what he's laying down. So what are those? Are those okay? So now he just has things to build on. So these are different foundation pieces. So he has one that's a certain height. This one's much higher. You got some arcs there, arches. Fabricator. So yeah, building pieces. So I wonder what the difference is, Instaformer versus Fabricator. Maybe some things are Instaformer foundations are, then Fabricator for other stuff. Are these redundant tools, maybe? All right, let's zoom back in on this one. This is the pyramid. Whoa. Definitely got these Eye of the Beholder type things. Wizard of the Coast going to be knocking. I have no idea if that's copyrighted by D&D or a concept that existed before them. So jumping, I love that jumping and then a little jetpacky and kind of flying back. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. So when they have the big icons over them, does that mean they've targeted me or I targeted them? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2, and then none. You see some damage numbers going over a mob. But what do the icons mean? The little alien looking icons. And what is that text way in the back? Is it just graphic artifacts? All right, let's put this back to regular size. All right, a couple more. Oh, this is one of the coolest looking pictures. I love this. It's like you're looking down the valley and seeing stuff to be built soon. But we got camps, plots, camps, and plots. Camp. Some water there. And someone started their foundation. They started a wall. And this seems to be, so this is a house wall, and this is a exterior like fence type wall. But this is one of the cooler pictures I've seen so far. Harvester. And then this was a very similar picture, just slightly different angle. It's funny, it's got his camp out in the air. So that piece is almost hanging. So what happens if I place a camp and then I terraform the land underneath it? Does everything fall down or float in the air? All right, and then there was some pictures I grabbed throughout the week. Let's bring some of these up. How's this Zoom work? World chat 8:45. Rod PWN live. This must be Rod. Fabricator, a little building. It's kind of dark, not easy to see, but that's okay. Don't have any lights. I wonder what kind of light structures you can place. There's another one. So he's got his fabricator out, and you can see a little bit more pieces this time. So from the other one, we just saw that piece. There's a big block piece, and then finally a what was that? An arch. And so we have that, but we got a little side ramp like thing, and then don't know what that is, but maybe just an open view window, corner piece, window piece, wall, corner piece, different window piece, corner piece. I wonder if this is how many pieces you need or how many you can make based upon the resources you have. And rotate left, rotate right, copy, delete, rotate, move, X, Y, and Z axis. That looks good. And there's the fabricator again. Let's close. Let's not keep these going. Dance room downstairs. Okay, yeah. So I think we see similar pieces here. Nothing new on that. Few people in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this dude's hidden. Cool. And building's coming along. A little lamp-like thing. Something on top of this one. Ramp going into it. There's good old Raph. Let's grab another one. Oh, farther out view this time. It's like, you can do some cool stuff into wall just because of terraforming. That really opens up some things you can do in this game, just buildings into walls, structures into, cliff sides. I think we saw something similar posted in chat today. But yes, this is the first time I've seen something so significantly different from the rest of the building pieces. Which not necessarily something I would build a lot with, but it's nice to see that they're going to have some differences in different pieces. And hopefully we can get some more colors. Don't want everything to be brown. Ooh. Got a gift. What we got going on here? Oh yeah, building a wall. Or doing something. I can't remember. It was a chat I was following. They were talking about some technique for doing something, and I can't remember what it is they were trying to accomplish. But it looks like it was trying to do something to that cliff side there. And it looks like he does it. More building. That looks bluish. But hopefully we get some more different types of walls or can do some different things. And again, it makes me wonder, because I talked about this before. In PAX Day, this would be a little bit harder to do, just have a free floating platform like this. And I wonder, I understood with the physics engine or the simulation engine, things can fall down, but I'm wondering when does that kick in? Or is it infinitely strong? Like, once I have something connected to land, could I build out forever with nothing underneath for structural integrity? Can I build as high as I can, given the limits of the plots? I think the plots do have depths and height sizes. Will I have to make it structurally sound to get up to the highest part? Or can I just build up high regardless of what pieces I use? Why is everybody fat? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just usually you watch video games and 90% of the players are all well shaped and physically fit. I see quite often people are a little bit rotund. You can see an XYZ coordinates there. Little area going into here. I kind of just love this building into a cave concept. That's so neat. You can almost build hideaway outs and stuff. Like if I'm flying around on my ship surveying the land, can I make it difficult for me to find somebody's plot, or will it be easy to do? And see, look, these are just floating in the air. That makes me just wonder. And I think they might be floating in the air because they're attaching to the ceiling part there of the cave. Not that they're floating in the air. Even that one looks like it's floating in the air. Some more just caves and stuff. I mean, so cool. Concept-wise. Somebody climbing a tree here. Couple more. Then we're going to watch a video or two. And we'll check the Stars Week's Twitter. It's like, what's going on here? Did someone build that? I assume someone built that, but it looks wild. Like, what is that brown exactly? What is this out here? I don't think this is Homestead, but maybe some structure you just kind of run into. Yeah, another angle. Wonder how many races they're going to have to start the game. So far, it seems to be 3. Like cat lady, this one, and a human. All right, that's the images. We've seen the trailer. I don't think there's anything new. Yeah, the trailer's the newest thing they've posted. Okay, so let's, I did want to watch, I watched the first technical video they posted. I'm going to watch the second one. Raph posted this in chat after he saw my previous one, said I liked this. So let me find that link. Where are you at? Here we go. I think this is it. Let's bring them up. Yeah. It's not what I copy. Copy. There we go. Let's watch this.
I'm here to talk to you about Stars Reach, where we are trying to do something very, very ambitious. We are chasing after the dream that we all had when we were 12 of online immersive worlds that felt
Immersive
real.
is the word everybody uses.
I've been chasing this dream for a really long time. My name is Raph. I was the designer of Ultima Online and of Star Wars Galaxies. I started making my first online worlds when I was a grad student in 1992, and they were made out of just text. And I've been chasing the dream of these living worlds, these alternate realities ever since. So today I'm going to talk to you about our try at doing it yet again with Stars Reach. Our studio, Playable Worlds, is devoted to the idea that we can make worlds that feel more alive and build stronger communities and really kind of fulfill the potential and build the next generation of massively multiplayer game. Not a small dream, I know, but we're trying. So first, of course, we're going to lead with what is the game? What's Stars Reach at all? And I'm going to give you some insight into how we're doing it. We're doing a bunch of really advanced technology things that are setting on top of Unity in order to pull off the kind of scale and simulation that we're reaching for. So, what is Stars Reach? It is a massively multiplayer sandbox. We like to think of it as a living galaxy. Long ago, an incredibly powerful ancient alien civilization terraformed a whole arm of the galaxy and called it their garden. They had the ability to break open wormholes in the fabric of time and space itself. They had the ability to engineer life. In fact, hate to break it to you, they made us. They made humans, genetically engineered us. We're their pets. They kept us all locked up on individual planets. Not just us humans, also the ones that look like vampires and the ones that look like fairies and the ones that look like, Sasquatches and so on. There's a bunch of interesting kinds of humans out there in the galaxy. But each of us, we're only human after all. We've ruined our homeworlds. Some of our homeworlds are hitting peak oil. Some of them, climate change. Some of them are even in danger of perishing to global pandemics. Highly implausible and yet true. And so it is that the robot servitors of the old ones have allowed us to leave our homeworlds and venture out into the larger galaxy. And it is our task to settle these new worlds, learn to do better than we did with our original planets, and in general, have a blast, because it's a video game after all. That's the galaxy of Stars Reach. And we set out to conquer this living galaxy with a few core design pillars. First of them was we wanted the game to be really accessible because MMOs they've grown ponderous and...
Yeah, I want to pause, and this is something I struggle with because to me, MMOs, I didn't even know how to say this. I feel like consoles simplify the gameplay too much that takes away from what MMOs I think should be. But always willing to be proven wrong. But you see so many of these games that were just so complex and lots of controls and lots of options on PCs, and they get ported to consoles or they get built with console in mind, and then they just get simplified and don't have some of the complexities you like to see in the game. That's the only thing I get kind of concerned when I see games that are built for consoles, especially in the MMO. But it may be possible now with what all we've learned in many years of the gaming industry that you can build a MMO that's highly playable on a console.
Full of buttons and 20 million HUD elements on screen. And as a result, they've also dwindled in audience because they've gotten confusing and heavy and tiny.
I will say I like complexity, but I don't like too many buttons. You play World of Warcraft, and it just seems like you have just a billion abilities, and it's a little overwhelming. So I can see that too. But I almost feel like console only has so many buttons, right? So it's like, I think 100's too much. I think 5 is too little. And I think there's a little bit better in the 20 range.
Time consuming and so on. So we really wanted to make this a new generation of massively multiplayer game, one that was...
But it is cool that if they're thinking about it from the get-go, it's designed from that. It's when you have it one way and try to port it to another way that it gets kind of ugly and clanky.
Friendly to kids who came up through Roblox and RuneScape and so on. Our second pillar was we want an endlessly explorable, fun galaxy. We want it to be welcoming, not grimdark and doomed the way that so much sci-fi is today, but a place full of rich stories that.
And I wonder if that's where the graphics are coming from. But I still think there's a difference between grim and dark, colorful and kitty. I mean, you can hit a realism type thing that isn't grim and dark. Realism doesn't mean the grass looking good doesn't mean grim and dark. And this is kid 6-year-olds watching something on a TV Saturday morning type color. That's not good looking grass. And I just think that'll hold this back from the mass audiences more than this, unless your target audience is 10-year-olds. But I think the game is a little bit more complex than that.
Can accommodate both pathos and humor, and most crucially, that doesn't break the bank when we try to populate it with content. Because as an ongoing service, that's one of the biggest challenges with an MMO is you have to keep delivering fresh content on an ongoing basis. And we have a lot of new technology these days that we didn't before. So we are leveraging high degrees of simulation in the cloud, procedural content, and emergent game design in order to bring really fresh experiences to players. Which meant the third pillar. And that's the one that you should be raising your eyebrow at.
This is what makes Stars Reach different from everybody else.
Simulating everything. Not building it out of static pieces.
Yep.
Not asking your artists to build the level. And then handing it all over to players. Like, are we crazy?
And this is true. I haven't seen anybody doing what they're doing.
Tall order there to build the most alive game ever made. But that's what we set out to do. That's what we said, we can give this a shot. We've got enough new technology today. There have been enough new inventions. Compute power is going up. We have the ability to deliver more by thinking in fresh ways about how we build these games. So that's what we set out to do.
Through the winter to spring to summer to fall seasons. And back to winter. That's so cool. But I'm assuming if the ground, the air is too warm, that would eventually melt. But I do feel This is the important part. This is what makes the game, is the simulation engine, the procedural generation, the world being alive and growing and transforming. And so they, I'd rather they spend time getting that right than trying to make the graphics like perfect and awesome, because that can kind of come over time. How the world is alive is huge to this game because it's what makes it different. And the way I understand, you play PAX Day, for example, and a wolf is always in this one spot. Whereas this, they're not necessarily static in one spot. They roam and move around. I love that. It's incredible.
Everything you saw streamed down on the fly. The environments were entirely generated in real time off of a simulation. Every tree was a monster. Everything you saw is dynamic and can change on thousands of planets in a single connected galaxy. When we say most alive world ever, we mean that on several different levels.
Yes.
The terrain is alive in the sense that all the terrain you saw is the output of a simulation running in the cloud, a cellular automata simulation. And all of the environment is dynamically meshed from the data of that simulation that's coming down over the wire. All of the plants actually run their own independent AI. In any other game, they would be one of the enemies. And they grow, and they react to the seasons, and they throw off seedlings, and
That's why when he said the tree's a mob, he paused to see if that would hit home. And I don't think it did in that audience. And maybe it did. He could see it, but, it's just like the wolf in PAX Day, or the bear, or the a dragon in World of Warcraft. It has its own AI and simulation of what it can do. And so that's what I was trying to mean. And this is something that's just so different than any other game out there.
The forests spread, and the forests catch fire, and they die. And the creatures each run AI akin to The Sims, and even express their emotions in our alien version of sim bubbles over their heads.
So like, if the water seasons, the land changes, and they roam and fall where the food is, I don't know, the creatures, that's so cool.
When we say alive, we're really trying to push simulation in video games to a degree that can't be done locally. On a client device. We're leveraging the power of the cloud in order to really pull this off. And it requires an enormous amount of technical innovation and working closely with our partners at Unity to push the boundaries of what can be done with ECS and DOTS, with our partners at AWS in order to unlock cloud capabilities in order to run simulations at this scale.
See the tree growing.
So, how does it work? Well, I'll tell you. First, let's start with the environment. You've all played with those sand simulators that were popular for a while. Think of doing that, Okay, conceptually what we're doing is cellular automata, Conway's game of life. Only instead of having one entity type that is on or off, every cubic meter of our world knows what materials it is made of, what the temperature is at that location, what its adhesion factor is to neighboring cells. Our little agents are holding hands with their neighbors. And that way, if too many of them stretch out sideways in a ledge, they can give way because the ledge no longer has the tensile strength to stay up. It can only cantilever out so far. And it does that based on the unique physical properties of each individual type of, we call them resources, each of the agent types that exist in the simulation. That's a single static list of them with a whole bunch of parameters. Each one of them knows at what temperature it melts into liquid or conversely freezes back into a solid. Each of them knows what its vapor point is because our water can be heated into steam, float away, and precipitate again down as liquid someplace else. They all have different properties so that if you drop a pile of granite on the ground, you can build a tower out of it. But if you drop a pile of sand, it's going to slump, right? So that each thing can behave the way one expects it to. We data drive all of this in a giant table so that we can boil it all down to one AI routine that processes all the materials in the same way and leverages only the data. And that way we can avoid writing too many branches in the code and do this processing of this giant grid as fast as we possibly can in order to deliver.
So everything has properties, and then one simulation engine runs based upon those properties.
A good experience to the players. This is only a piece of that grid. It's a really, really large grid. As you can see, we keep just about everything down at the byte level, although we do allow ourselves some very indulgent floats from time to time. Each of these things has its own unique hash ID. They do fall into a tagged tree structure so that we can address, let's say, all the types of soil, of which there's a dozen, as all soil or by individual if we so choose. And then every single cell knows what is in it. And we end up having to create a start and then valleys and then a peak again.
Oh shit,
if you build your map functionality like wave, this is only a piece of that grid. It's a really, really large grid. As you can see, we keep just about everything down at the byte level, although we do allow ourselves some very indulgent floats from time to time. Each of these things has its own unique hash ID. They do fall into a tagged tree structure so that we can address, let's say, all the types of soil, of which there's a dozen, as all soil or by individual if we so choose. And then every single cell knows what is in it. And we end up having to create a starter map. Thanks to Unity, of course, we can build custom tooling that enable our designers to build environment rules.
And this is one of the things that I heard listening in Discord and some of the stuff is they had more flexibility with the pieces of Unity they can use versus the Unreal Engine. And it's more Unreal Engine kind of, you got to take all this and it's hard to break it out. Whereas it sounded like Unity, they could pick and choose pieces and modify pieces.
Tools that make for good playable environments, right? It's really easy to use procedural generation or any other form of generative content to make what AI researchers call endless bowls of oatmeal, right? It's easy to generate oatmeal. It can get very hard to tell bowl 357 apart from bowl 356. So it was really important to us to have a generation system that gave designers control over exactly what the width of the canyons would be so that the combat can be fun, the right amount of flat areas so that players can build their towns on them, the right slopes to the mountains to make for the right degree of navigability, right? All of those things end up under designer control. This graph tool here effectively allows our designer to build an algorithm built out of 1D, 2D, and 3D noise generators. Everything from Perlin noise to simple splat down circles to more advanced functionality like wave function collapse algorithms. And by stringing these together, they can build, let's say, a landscape of basaltic magma plugs that have congealed into mesas in an environment that still has some hot springs and maybe one active caldera, but the rest of it feels, you know, maybe just subtropical, right? They can specify all of that in advance, and then we can randomize the seeds. And when we need a planet that happens to have a volcanic area like that, we can pull this algorithm, randomize the seeds, pull the algorithms for a couple of other kinds of topographies. Let's say maybe we also want some large glacially sculpted mountains and maybe a desert on that planet. We pull those out of the library as well, blend them all together, and then output a completely unique planet that nonetheless has the playability of the template that our designer created. We do allow the importation of data into this node graph from external tools. We particularly like GeoGen, but it can import from Houdini, Terragen, WorldBuilder, and similar. Of course, it's important that you be able to preview this data. This is not just height field maps. Height fields is kind of a solved problem. We need to output data that is tagged with materials in full 3D, every cubic meter of the entire map data set. So that algorithm library, which you can see in the column there to the left, that generates the different shapes, including 3D noise generators for doing things like carving caves and tunnels underground or weird worm-like protrusions that poke into the sky. We have the ability to place down hint maps so that we can populate the environment with flora. Let's say we want to establish a difficulty curve that goes from one end of the planet to another because we want it to be a dungeon world. Those kinds of things can go in the hint map and allow our designers to shape the landscape via hints that the game server will use when the planet is.
I do wonder, though, that if, I don't know, is there going to be nothing when you start the game? Will there be some kind of city or place that's a major population area? And will they design that? Here's where this building is. Will they have that concept in there? Or will day one be nothing? I'm kind of curious where they're going to go for that. So I'm wondering, so when there's cases where they want to build something exactly some way, will they be able to do that? I guess they can, because if I can go into the game and build something, they can go into the game and build something and say, here's where this city is, using the same pieces the players use.
Is then generated. The hint maps will conform to the new topography because they are following the instructions of the underlying node graph. And we have the ability to use a number of filters and masks to do things like extrude ledges on the cliffs so it's easier to climb up without running out of stamina, and so on. This map right here, once it's gone through that process, goes up to the cloud and is in the form of just the algorithm description. And it goes to a world generation service that actually generates an individual planet instance. Then that instance is booted into a server, and that map looks like this one. Right there, you can see that weird triangular cave in the background that you saw in the preview. So each cubic meter here, we know the temperature and the humidity. If you look closely, you can see that the dirt that does not have grass on it tends to slump and erode more than the dirt that has grass, because the grass roots hold that dirt together. Every one of those materials can then affect player locomotion. It is harder to climb an icy slope than one that is not. It slows you down when you move through the mud versus the dirt. And yes, it might rain and turn the dirt into mud in real time during gameplay. Here you can see us processing that 3D data grid just to diffuse temperature across the map. We actually take the byte range of temperature and map each value in it into a lookup table so that we can compress a wide array of temperatures into just one byte, because after all, we're interested in the temperatures humans care about. We want extreme temperatures to be present in the galaxy, but we don't need anywhere near the level of precision at the extremes than we do in the middle. So we actually take that byte and map it into a lookup table. All of the values that are present in the resource system are used in order to determine cutoff values and behaviors when the simulation works on a given material. The melt point, the boil point, even the angle of repose for that blob of sand that we dropped, it ends up sliding until it has a nice dune-like quality to it. How much time did it take to build this? We have been working on this simulation for over 5 years. It has moved through 6 different languages.
Can't believe this
at
is
this
taking
point.
so long for me
This
to
is now version 6. It currently runs
learn
as a
about those
microservice
games.
in Rust. And we already know that its ultimate destination is cloud GPU. And moving it to Rust was a good interim step because it helps us architect towards that GPU destination. The cost of cloud GPU, of course, has been falling thanks to the AI revolution, and we can run very efficiently on hardware thanks to limiting the amount of branching in the algorithm. It really does lend itself to being treated almost like a compute shader. Currently, we are processing 270 million cells on that map 10 times a second. So you might be wondering, how the heck do you stream that much data down to the client? Even that map then works out at about 60 gigabytes of RAM. And we let the player see most of it, frankly, from where they're standing. So each of the cells is boiled down to only 9 bytes of data, right? We try to be very, very efficient about the cell's data. That also ends up making extremely compressible. We currently serve that data directly to the client, to the terrain renderer, as well as serving it to the Unity server. Both of them then mesh it for different purposes. The server is meshing it to build the collision meshes, and the client, of course, in order to render it. We currently achieve up to 99.4% compression on that data.
So the part I don't understand is if I'm on a map, how big is the map, and what happens when I get to the edge of the map and I'm on close to another map? Does the map move with me? And so whatever the number is, 16 by 16, 100 by 100, whatever it is, as I'm moving around the world, what I have is just a static area that all this data is given to me.
Because as you might imagine, the underground of a granite rock is an awful lot of repeated data, so it compresses extremely well. In fact, this currently works well enough that we actually just send it using HTTP calls, although I can see that UDP is in our future. The cells are just 9 bytes, as mentioned, but we still have to deal with the fact that we have to compress them and decompress them.
He has to hate
None
that
of
it's
this
just
would be
9
achievable
bytes.
realistically without
So-
using burst jobs and dots, right? This is a truly large amount of computation that's happening. We're able to decompress and populate the whole map in just a couple of frames. It doesn't take long at all. Then we have to stack stuff on top of it. Currently, we are aiming at a target of about 20,000 unique objects that can be streamed down on the fly to an individual client when they log into a world. A sandbox MMO like this has to have an extremely high object count, right?
I kind of wonder, because on PAX Day, what was the numbers I was hearing? Like 500,000 pieces that were in like just certain regions and whatnot. I'm trying to remember some of the numbers that PAX Day was given.
Every single one of those trees grew there. They weren't hand-placed. They grow to maturity, they throw off babies, and so on. They go through multiple states. We handle that primarily via rendering on the client by having a smart shader that knows how to adjust and adapt them. And every single one of them is fully scriptable. We could make any one of those trees turn into a carnivorous tree that eats you. At runtime, actually. So every single one of them is a fully dynamic object. In order to pull this off, we had to work really closely with Unity. They've been wonderful partners. We worked very closely with them on updating the capacity, particularly for static object count in ECS physics. Via some optimizations, we've already been able to achieve several multiples of the performance that it originally shipped with. And the gains from that stuff is actually in your hands.
I want to go back to an earlier comment when I talked about PAX Day where they had the 500,000 pieces. That was some of the performance issues that they had is you had a lot of pieces that you didn't necessarily see or needed to see. And so they optimized that in the last couple of releases where you can even see it now. If you go into zoom mode, F7 mode, you don't see stuff way, way far away. You got to zoom in closer. And even still then, you don't see everything.
Now, because it shipped as part of the recent ECS physics updates you all were able to grab just a couple of weeks ago, which is awesome. We've also worked extensively with Unity on netcode optimizations to achieve this kind of scale. So, one of the advantages to working right on the bleeding edge is Unity likes being right there with you. So if you're working with something like this, you can always reach out to them and say, hey, we're trying to
if
solve
you're just
this really
working
big
on something
problem,
like this.
and they will help.
Ooh, here we go.
I mentioned that every single one of those trees was scriptable. One of the beauties of Unity as an engine is that it isn't monolithic. It isn't so tightly coupled that you can't pull it apart and replace pieces of it when you have specialized needs. And we do have specialized needs, right? Like that terrain environment that you saw, we can't use Terrain Engine to do that. Terrain Engine isn't built to handle, voxel-style rendering, that kind of thing. So, that's fine. We can just replace it with our own. The same was true for achieving MMO scalability in terms of dynamic objects and their behaviors. We're a game where there isn't anything static. There really isn't like a handcrafted environment. Everything is dynamic. Everything comes down on the fly. Every single object is capable of having scripts on it. And we actually embed node.js within Unity Server, and we use TypeScript in order to implement all the game logic. And we even store all of our game data in JSON tables. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One of them is it makes all of the game content.
They showed all this in the previous session I watched, where they spin up little Node.js processes to run these scripts for each little behavior. I guess they have like a grow behavior. I don't know. And then they can add those on the fly without really kind of changing everything.
And hot reloadable, both in live deployment, so we can update the game without needing to patch, which is a huge service win, but also in development, because we can add gameplay without having to go through a build.
For me and my development expertise, I don't get into this type stuff. It's more business deliverables and functionality like that. And we do have some systems where we need thousands of people on in it, but it's just not the same thing. It's business calculations, HR functionality, stuff like that. Now, when they get to talk about this, a lot of stuff they're doing there is something I'm very familiar with in terms of web development, because 99% of the applications we built over the last 24 years have been web-based applications. And so I'm more familiar with this part. I really don't have a strong skill set in, but scaling is scaling. And we have applied similar concepts, like we use Node.js too, and also try to do smaller microservices, not to the smallness that they're doing here, but conceptually the same thing.
You can just edit a script file, hit save, and it is live in the game instantly, which increases your iteration time as a designer dramatically. And we all know that you find the fun by iterating. Felt real into a course in order, and they will help. Because we can add gameplay without having to go through a build. You can static. There really isn't like a handcrafted environment. Everything is dynamic, coupled that you can't pull it apart and replace people. We're able to grab environment. Everything is dynamic. Everything comes down on the fly. Every single object is capable of having scripts. Those JSON tables end up starting out as what go through a build.
Yeah. And what I was going to say, the reason I was trying to pause and actually hit it back is not only can they make changes faster, they can break stuff faster too.
You can just edit a script file, hit save, and it is live in the game instantly, which increases your iteration time as a designer dramatically. And we all know that you find the fun by iterating. The more times you hit save on the script, the more fun the game is going to get. So, how does that work? Those JSON tables end up starting out as what we call templates. Templates are like cookie cutters, right? They are the shape of what we might spawn.
And it makes me wonder how, all right, so they released 1.0's live. And are they going to iterate a bunch of small features and functionality over time, or will they have decent size releases and updates and enhancements? Because they can easily just kind of roll out stuff as it's ready.
On inside the game. They control the basic appearance, they have a set of stat fields on them, and they can have scripts attached to them using a component model. You stamp out cookies, individual things, from a template. So you spawn an individual instance of a tree, and it's going to get a copy of the appearance information, a copy of the stats, and a copy of the scripts. Why a copy? Because every single one of those things is runtime modifiable.
Yeah.
We are able to achieve efficiencies by
Here's how
referencing
trees
back
look.
to the template
This is
if
a
the value
tree in the
hasn't
game.
changed. But
This
as
is
more
another
of it
tree in the game.
changes, gradually the object acquires a slightly heavier memory footprint. When we attach a script to an object, what we're actually doing is attaching a collection of event handlers. Our game doesn't have a core loop. You can't really build MMO scale with a core loop. If you have to go through and visit everything and tick everything, you'll never achieve the kind of performance level that you need. So instead, our core loop that exists on the server is really an event dispatcher, and it just runs as fast as it can. And it sends events around. Events might come from a client, like a player saying, move north. Events might come from the web, like the auth system saying a player has connected. Events might come from physics. A laser bolt just hit you. And the events might come from other scripts. We actually allow our designers to create their own new events on the fly in the scripting language so that they can create entire systems. But a system for us really means a set of scripts that knows how to talk to the other scripts in its system. Because everything is handled via messaging. Everything is just events.
And I just think this design approach that they have here is going to allow them to scale out quickly, meaning new features and functionalities, new objects can be done because there's this whole rule set of how these things interact together, well-defined interfaces. And so people can build stuff independent, or their development community can build stuff rapidly.
Flying around. A given script can extend the data structure of an object via adding properties. Those properties will only be present while the script is attached. So let's say I have made a food object. The food value of that object will be a property in the script file. And it's going to assume that the player has some sort of...
The real game's the simulation engine. So when they go live with 1.0 and they have to make changes to the simulation engine, it could have big impact on everything in the whole world. You know, you think about, let's just go talk about Star Wars Galaxies. They had the initial planets. And when they did some expansions, they added new planets that had some of the newer features and functionalities. In this case, the simulation engine can affect everything.
Stomach property in the I can eat things script that is attached to the player. It can have triggers, which is our term for the event handlers. These are the messages that it can receive when it is told that something has happened to it. And of course, it can have a function library. Everything in the game is handled via messaging things around. And the beauty of that, not only can we hot reload it, it's fast to iterate, et cetera, et cetera. If one script has a bug in it, it's just running in its own little thread process, and it can die and leave the entire rest of the game unaffected, right? TypeScript.
But what if the bug? So how can what if the world changes though? So if I write a bug and my tree then drops a billion seeds and they all had some behavior of growing super fast, and the next thing you know, your planet was covered with trees. How do you undo that? Like what is the ability of these individual things to affect everything around it? I assume it can, since we just talked about the tree, dropping seeds, growing more trees. So they can introduce bugs and behaviors that can have a significant adverse effect. Now, what he's talking about is on the server side, though, is if I have a bad bug and it's consuming lots of memory, he can't just bring down the whole system. It's running its own little world. And if he's having a hard time, the game is still going to chug along. But a bug in a script could still not necessarily be a server-side bug in that it's consuming resources or causing something to crash. It could have play behavior that is adverse to everybody around it.
Script can never crash your game. We can automatically surface errors.
Never say that. So what I just said is if it caused a whole bunch of stuff to spawn and things to happen, that then all of a sudden this guy here started having a hard time with it and he crashed. So never say never can't crash. You can always crash
We
stuff.
can do runaway loop detection or overly heavy CPU usage. We can detect those kinds of things, automatically disable that script from running throughout the game service, and so on. So it gives us a much higher level of reliability, right? Because our goal with an MMO service is to keep it up at the highest reliability.
Don't get me wrong. It's highly, highly scalable. I just don't like the word never.
We can. These scripts can even set up their own local ticks by messaging themselves if they want to. Everything in the game works this way. When I pull the trigger on my laser blaster and send a physics projectile moving across the landscape to hit some kind of weird fuzzy purple spider dragon out there, all of that is happening.
Yeah, all the
way.
bullets, everything in the game, all functions the same way.
It looks like this. Spawned is an example of a trigger event that is already present in the game system as a platform capability that the main Unity server fires out on every object the moment that it is first instantiated. In this case, this is a tree or a plant. And so the minute that it is born, it says, have I started growing yet? How tall am I? Let me set myself as a height between this possible birth height and this possible birth height. And then let me send myself a message after an interval. And this interval, this tick, is actually fuzzed. You can see this tick fuzz variable there towards the end. That is because in a system of this scale, we never want to have regular ticks so that all of the 20,000 trees process in the same server frame. That is a recipe for periodic hitching lag. So instead, by randomizing the callback frame for every single message that is sent, you essentially amortize the cost of these giant systems and smooth it all out stochastically. It sends the event, and as you can see, you can send arbitrary parameters along with the grow tick event. And down here, we can then handle that and detect things like, oh, am I at the next stage of growth? Do I need to change my art? We have the ability to drive from the server everything about the appearance, every single shader parameter. All of those kinds of things can be driven from scripting from the server so that we can modify all of the objects dynamically on the fly. What does all of this add up to? It adds up to a world in which you can melt rock into lava or fire a heat beam at sand and it turns to glass. And when the lava congeals, you might have turned chalk back into marble. It adds up to players freezing a path across a lake and playing, ice skating on top of it. Or vaporizing the lake and watching it float away. Chemical reactions between different materials can actually erode the landscape and add detail that our artists could never afford to actually put in by hand. All of our rivers automatically get properly eroded river banks and silt forming in the puddles and all of that kind of thing. It just shows up. And of course, really fun stuff like collapsing the roof of a cave onto your enemies and crushing them under 10 times of rock. It also buys us the ability for players to modify this environment because all of this is fully persistent. We track the persistence of the environment per server, and we also maintain a centralized service for things that need to move between the different planets or parts of the galaxy. By allowing players to engage in voxel building rather than building just with prefab props, we can economize on the bandwidth because letting them do voxel building is covered by the transmission of CASIM data rather than the much heavier objects. This just enables players to have completely fresh and new experiences that just haven't been available in a game before.
Yeah.
Right? Fly through a nebula and then fire a plasma bolt into it and watch it explode and set fire to all the space spiders or whatever is living in there. Hollow out an entire...
But, again, they can make spaceships because they're just going to be properties in the game, right? I mean, if a bullet is just a thing and it has its properties and it moves, a spaceship is just a bigger thing.
Mountain to use as your base, but oops, you delved too deep, the mountain fell on you. Because we actually simulate gravity and arches and adhesion and all of the rest.
And it's made up of a bunch of things, actually. Engine and propulsion, and they're connected to other pieces. Just like the houses when you build the house.
So then the next obvious question, how do you draw that? I won't lie, it's been really, really hard, right? Like our water alone is a research project. Most video games can just get away with a flat sheet of water and maybe a waterfall particle generator or two, right? We have to handle water that can be both at the same time in a single connected body, right? That has turned out to be a very real rendering challenge for us. We start by using a standard surface nets algorithm, okay? It's one of the standard voxel rendering techniques. Even though our system is not technically voxels, voxels are on-off. In the case of our agents, we actually know the quantity per cell, which we can provide as input into the surface net data, which enables us to build a much more detailed mesh than we would be able to otherwise. And then a very robust shader system sits on top of that, okay, with the capability for distinct textures for the upper surface, the side surface, the underneath surface, grass cluttering systems. We update only the chunks that have changed recently. Chunks are blocks of 16 meters cubed. And of course, all of the textures that you see on here, they're probably actually only sourced from maybe 2 or 3 textures because the parameters in the shader are enough that we're able to get away with about 10 terrain textures for all of the terrains on the map, even though there's over 120 different materials in the terrain system.
I'm not as familiar with. Business web-based applications aren't client-side graphical engines.
With a properly written shader, you can change the heck out of what it looks like. So all of that ends up turning into something like this. We have to achieve really, really high performance with this, right? So we are leaning very heavily on burst jobs, and I'll spoil something from the next slide. We render all the terrain and all of the liquids in the game in a single draw call using this shader. And that's thanks to the fact that we're building it on URP and are able to do just a really optimized job of building a special case tool to meet our very specialized needs.
Can't wait to play the game and see what the client-side
Nonetheless, we
resources
still
are
have to keep a really
compared to
close
some of
eye
these
on the
Unreal
quantity
Engine
of dirty
games I've been
chunks
playing.
that can be modified in the server inside of a short span of time. Because if there's one thing that can affect client performance, it is the meshing of this environment. On the server, we take this data, and every second we mesh 12,000 of these chunks into collision meshes. The client has to do more work because it, of course, has to also do all of the shader rendering and so on. So we only manage 3,000 per second on the client. But all of it comes down to one draw call. And we do that with a mesh cluster implementation that is actually DX11 compliant as opposed to DX12 compliant. So it's a very high performance system that has taken a ton of really custom work. The compute shader, if we weren't doing it this way, it has built into it frustum calling and backface calling and all the rest of that. If we weren't doing it this way, it would be the equivalent of 20,000 draw calls, which by itself would use up 15 milliseconds of our draw rendering time. So that obviously would not work. Now, we only update the state of the simulation down to the client. We do it at a slower rate than 60 FPS. The simulation is running at 10, right, FPS. What we do is we actually have a radial awareness system where you get more frequent updates, 5 frames per second for things that are right in front of you, and less based on distance. To cover that up, we lerp the state of the chunks. They basically morph from one state to the other, which is a performance option that you can choose to toggle on and off in your client options. Then on top of this, we layer things like a clutter system that uses pooling so that we can handle everything from the grass to dust when rock falls to water spray for those waterfalls, all handled via the same system. And then we can make that very procedurally based on lookups into the local temperature and local humidity.
You got dancing.
All of this is enabled thanks to the
You got
URP
waving.
pipeline. Whoop, went one too far. So I just have a static screenshot here just so I can show off some of what this means. This tunnel was not generated. This was actually a tunnel I dug with the digging tool. I was digging through primarily a layer of shale, which is the stone you can see up here on the left, but I hit bedrock on the bottom. But the water reacts with the shale, turns some of it, when there's enough, it turns it into sand, and that sand, of course, has poor adhesion, so it slumps and falls, which revealed a different kind of rock hidden back there. I'm not even sure what that is back there. And where it spends more time in the water, that sand is gradually eroded into clay, which is the reddish stuff that you see edging the bottom. Looks like I accidentally may have unveiled a gold vein there hidden behind. And of course, you can see moss growing on the walls. That is happening automatically. We take the simulation and we have an LOD system that sits on top of it and looks at the ambient temperature and humidity and feeds that into the shader in order to apply things like ice effects and moss effects and the like on top of the terrain. So all of this detail was added from the simulation on the fly. Similarly, you can see the health of the grass changing as we climb the slope, because there are differing levels of temperature and ambient humidity as we work our way up.
As the height goes up, it gets colder.
That dirt texture up there in those embankments and the dirt down here is exactly the same, and it is being handled entirely using the shader differences in order to convey these nuances as you climb these mountains.
Yeah, look at that.
So we get massive economies from embracing simulation in this way, and it adds detail and variety to the world that, frankly, given today's video game budgets, we couldn't afford to do any other way.
Yeah. It's all about the engine.
All of the objects run a single shader, again, in order to be able to combine draw calls. This shader
they caught the
allows
tree
us
on
to
fire.
have temperature response. If you look at that tree there, you'll see temperature response and humidity response meter by meter of the environment, so we can burn the foliage off of only half the tree and then apply the burn effects to part of the tree. This means that unlike traditional video games, we don't specify biomes. They are an emergent quality of the level of detail of the simulation. For us, biomes are actually a local lookup. We go, oh, well, it's this hot and this wet here. I guess this is a savanna, right? And then that determines whether or not a given species of tree will thrive there or not. Players have the ability to change their environment. They can put down heaters and chillers, build greenhouses, irrigate the desert. So we give them the control over this. They may want to plant forests because they really want to grow mushrooms, and mushrooms need a cooler space, and forests cool the environment down.
Very cool.
The same super shader also applies on players because all of this customization allows us to selectively replace the materials, patterns, and textures and colors on up to 4 regions of every object in the world independently on every object. So this gives us all of the character customization and color customization that a modern online game service needs. In the end,
So what is the extra 20
we're
minutes?
solving a whole bunch of tough problems here, right? We are trying to build this world that feels alive and responsive, a world that lets players take ownership, shape the environment, a world that lets them resculpt it. At a high-end play, players can actually...
And the thing is not only is it going to allow them to have more worlds, and it's just going to allow them to add so much. I'm surprised more people aren't trying to do this, and maybe they are, they just haven't announced it. But even Star Citizen, they're just doing procedural generation. But then to have it living and breathing and changing and evolving, it's just incredible.
land on one of these planets, possibly drive some of the creatures extinct, import species from another world,
That's cool.
start building their homes, plant a flag, form a government on that planet, set the rules, decide whether they want their planet to be a role-play haven or a wretched hive of scum and villainy, run their own shops in a player-driven economy, set tax rates, because, you know, death and taxes, and ultimately feel like they own their world. This approach and this architecture lets us build an environment that makes handcrafted worlds feel like stage sets, right? One of the highest compliments we got was when a fellow developer friend of mine, the first time he got to go hands-on, he just ran around for 30 minutes, and then he turned to me and he grinned and he said, "It just does what you expect." And there's something magical about that, right? Like, that's the holodeck dream, right? Is things that do what you expect. And we've gotten so used to handcrafting every experience and shaping every single moment that having that brief experience of pouring some water on the ground and actually watching it puddle and then watching the grass get happy, you know, it actually brings a grin to your face when you see it happen, right? We were chasing the impossible when we set out to do this. And yeah, it's taken us 5 years, and we're in pre-alpha now. But it wouldn't be possible if it hadn't been for the advances that have been made in cloud compute, the cost curves that have fallen, even new languages getting invented. And it wouldn't be possible if we weren't built on top of Unity, which has allowed us to selectively pick the parts of the engine that work towards our goals and the parts of the engine that just don't, because they were built for other purposes, right? When you need a power drill, it doesn't matter if the engine's version is a hammer, if you can say, well, I'll build my own drill and not use your hammer. And Unity lets you do that. So we have selectively gone through and leveraged the individual systems that make sense for our purposes. And we've leaned incredibly hard into Burst and Jobs and ECS in order to achieve this kind of scalability. And in those cases where things like our simulation, for example, that need to scale beyond even what ECS can do, Unity lets us do that too, and move it on out into Rust and Cloud GPU and so on, precisely because it is modular. In the end, if there's one thing that computers do really well, it's math, right? It's simulating stuff. In many senses, this kind of game is what computer games are for. Because you can't do this outside of a computer. You can't provide this kind of interactivity. Leaning into this rather than leaning into the handcrafted mode of game development has unlocked for us just an extremely exciting landscape of what games can be and the new kinds of enjoyment and fun that they can provide to players. And ultimately, I probably bored you to death with a whole bunch of stats and algorithms and whatever.
I'm getting to thinking, I wonder if you could also build your own pieces, so a different type of wall. As long as you can give it the properties that you expect to have, then you can let players build their own pieces.
But I think it's really important to bear in our minds that we ultimately do this not just because it's cool, but we do it for them. We do it to give fun to them. We do it to make them feel empowered, to let them play with agency. And our way of doing that is to chase after that most alive game and give them the coolest sandbox we possibly can. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So what's the rest of the video?
I believe we have some minutes for questions.
Oh, questions.
And there are
20
a
minutes?
couple of, yes, we have a couple of people who can help us with those questions.
Hi, thank you for the for how you said it was really impressive. My question is about, you talk about the world, but you didn't talk a lot about the players. Like, how do you handle the players? Are you actually shardless for the player? Are you using multiple server instances and stuff? How many players can gather at the same place, and etc.?
Yeah, so we covered a bunch of that in the talk I did just prior to this one down in the community stage, but I'll repeat some of it. We are a massively multiplayer game. It is a single shardless environment. Each of these simulated zones bubbles up and shuts down on the fly in the cloud. That way we can shut them down if there's no usage. Each one of them is individually MMO capable of hundreds of players, potentially up to 1,000. We are still scaling it. We're in pre-alpha. We're in the midst of that scaling testing right now. Go sign up on starsreach.com, join the Discord. You might be able to get in. We currently are running tests every 2 weeks. We open the servers for a couple of hours, hand everybody all the tools, and say, break it, please. And then we go fix everything the players broke. We are not chasing server meshing and seamless environment. Because frankly, we think it is a fool's errand to do so.
Wow.
The dynamic and pattern that we have seen.
I've wanted the same thing too, because I've mentioned this in other contexts. Is like, I don't doubt they want to build this, but I just wonder, is it doable in our hardware that we have today, and even the hardware that we have in the next few years? Just curious.
Over a couple of decades of MMOs, and I say this, by the way, as if we invented server meshing for Ultima Online, okay? So I get it, I know where it came from, all that. But we don't chase it because it's very clear that MMO populations go through life cycles. Often those life cycles have peaks and then valleys and then a peak again. If you build your map so that it is ever growing like a seamless quilt, you can't get rid of squares in the middle of the quilt when they are obsoleted or nobody wants to go there anymore. And at that point, you are dealing with the hosting costs and the memory. You're creating a lot of empty space in the map that nobody wants to visit. You can't obsolete it out very easily. You can't not run it. If somebody's standing next to, they need to be able to see into it. So you have to incur the cost because of the meshing, right? So we said, why not make it work like the web? Which is something we say to ourselves very often. Game engines should work more like the web.
Yes.
Right? And if you were following some of what we do with scripting and some of the other things, you'll see that that's a philosophy of ours. So our zones, which include not just planets, but space zones as well, which, by the way, have all the same functionality, because the only difference between them is the skybox and the gravity variable. Okay? Everything else works exactly the same. Not only can they bubble up and down, but they are hyperlinked in a graph, connected by wormholes, landing sequences, and so on. That allows us to add density in the middle of the quilt if we need to. If players strip mine a planet, kill everything, and there's nothing left but bedrock, and then they go, see, I'm never going back again, the wormhole can collapse and we can delete it off the map. So it gives us a lot of benefits, and some of these benefits extend to the future because we can do things like when we give them ownership over a planet, we can allow them to set rules like turning the PvP flag on and off, for example.
Interesting.
And have a very bright line boundary as to when you're in one rule set. Or try doing it yet again.
Did it again.
After they ruined this one. More importantly, you've actually you've uncovered one of our not-so-secret agendas, which is this is a game about handing stewardship of living
the world for that temperature perspective. And I was just curious, have you thought about that?
A user proxy routing service, databases and things like that, everything. We have an auth service running up. The best way to describe it in some ways is we can delete it off the map. So it gives us a lot of benefits, and some of these benefits extend to the future because we can do things like when we give them ownership over a planet, we can allow them to set rules like turning the PvP flag on and off, for
So that's cool. You can make a whole planet PvP.
example, and have a very bright line boundary as to when you're in one rule set versus another. Because our assets stream down on the fly, we can bound the asset download by zone. All of our assets, they're not baked into the client either. They come down on the fly, fetched off of URLs. That means that eventually zones could have user-uploaded assets or scripts that only run on a given world. Someday I have dreams of being the first truly moddable MMO.
Yes.
So the best way to describe it in some ways is imagine if everybody networked all the Minecraft servers and gave you hyperlinks between them all.
Yeah.
Right? Each one is MMO capable, but to the player, this will feel like a single living galaxy.
Yeah.
Sorry for the verbose answer, but there's rarely one reason why we made a choice.
Hey.
Next question.
Hi. Great talk. Thanks for it. If I did get that right, the client or the game is made entirely in Unity using URP and ECS, and the server is TypeScript, Web, Node, a mix of Unity and Node or TypeScript, or how's that set up?
Again, that was the talk earlier.
Yes, it was.
But yes, that's correct. There's actually a series of different things that end up running up in AWS there. We have a zone manager service that acts sort of as a nanny process for everything. We have an auth service running up there as a separate process. We have as many zones as we are running. A given zone consists of a Unity server with currently it's an embedded node.js. But if we end up deciding to horizontally scale scripting, we can actually pull Node.js out of Unity server and run as many as we need per zone. It is paired with a CASIM process. The CASIM microservice is written in Rust. Unity server is Unity server. Node.js, of course, is Node.js. And then even on top of that, there's a variety of databases and things like that for dealing with. There's a character REST service for global data. There's local persistent stores per zone, and so on. So this is not unusual for an MMO. It's very typical for a given MMO to actually require a whole cluster of different kinds of processes in order to handle all of the different activity. One that we don't have yet, but I'm sure we will, is a user proxy routing service that exists in between client connections and the servers. Typically, you multiplex the client connections in an MMO through those for both security and load balancing reasons. We're not yet at the scale where we need to do that, but it is in our future. So yeah, it's a complex architecture. I'm sure that the talk that I gave previously, it was one done in partnership with AWS. I believe all of these sessions are getting recorded. They certainly filmed that one. So we shared the actual architecture diagram of the servers in the walkthrough there. So I'd encourage you to go look for that recording once Unite makes it available. All right, next.
Iggy Love, thank you so much for sharing this, especially about the temperature part. A slightly less technical question. Have you guys tried replicating our planet in there? Like building, so we can test things out from like an impact perspective. You guys build incredible living world, right? And there are a lot of like big impact climate change problems that we face. And it seems like there's a dynamic here and mechanic that would allow people to see the world through that temperature perspective. And I was just curious, have you thought about that? And what are your thoughts about this? Yeah.
One of our first tests of this stuff was importing digital elevation map data, which flows directly into the system. So yes, we have imported pieces of the real world into this. But more importantly, you've actually you've uncovered one of our not-so-secret agendas, which is this is a game about handing stewardship of living worlds over to players after they ruined this one. And so,
mic drop.
Yeah, part of our intent is that this game serve as a laboratory for hopefully millions of players to try thousands of times to do better and carry those lessons back here.
Awesome. I'd love to talk about that. Yeah.
Let's see. I see a hand up back there.
Probably one more question.
Thanks for the talk, like pretty interesting one. So question is like a lot is going through node.js and not the TypeScript and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of the logic is driven through this. So an example you that show, like tree just schedule its own ticks to grow. So you probably like face the issues with the like something fell off that one of advantage that you use, like Node.js cannot crush your server. So how you detect this stuff? Maybe you can share something about it. Like, so you detect that like this one tree is tough to updating, and how you like just fall back from it, like just start row tree again.
So the event queue is reliable. It doesn't drop messages. I don't know how that works behind the scenes. I didn't engineer it. But messages not only don't drop, they even persist if the server goes down, and it resumes its queue when the server comes back up after a crash. So that event dispatcher system is meant to be fault tolerant.
RabbitMQ, Kafka, things like that,
Bear
they're
in
designed
mind
for
that
that.
the
I don't know what they're using,
typical,
but
in practice, we are able to execute all of the pending scripts. Every given event is usually less than a screen of code. So in practice, we're able to execute all of them well under standard frame time. Each of them takes, microseconds. There's hardly anything to them. Usually they're adding a number, changing a number, and sending another event, and then they're out, right? So the other way I would describe this is that the average server loop is a no-op. Most of the time, the server is idle.
yeah,
Right? Because the amount of
He's
time
not the one doing
actually
the work.
spent inside the scripts is low, right? The trick is actually working with the system that way. As an anecdote, when people first started working on trying to handle all the trees growing, their first pass at the architecture involved a singleton tree manager that allocated clumps of trees, like, okay, we're going to handle 5,000 on this tick, and before that, then too many pile up, and and it was this huge complex thing with a singleton manager, and they posted up the tech description, and I made them just rip it up and throw it away. And I said, no, make each tree manage itself, but fuzz the ticks. That is the path to getting that kind of scalability, right? Is having lots of really small things that can be gone through very quickly instead of having central managers that attempt to process large amounts of data.
Yeah.
That same pattern applies even in the individual scripts that you're writing. So, if a scripter has a for loop that's going to process 1,000 things in their script, they're doing it wrong, right? Like, that is an anti-pattern in a structure like this. Instead, even that ought to amortize doing like 10 at a time and giving itself a callback, right? And amortizing it over a few frames. Or even better, just not process lists of data in a script. Like, you shouldn't be doing that, generally speaking. There are other patterns that you can use. So it does require a mental adjustment. We've found that people who work in UI programming or web programming get it very intuitively. And people who are used to working in core loops in traditional video games often don't. But it's surprising how much performance you can gain back.
and that's actually real funny because you can just hear in even the couple of questions, and I guarantee a lot of the audience is when Raf comes up here and says he's building a massively multiplayer online game, and one of the key technologies to that is node.js. That probably baffled everybody's mind in that audience. Business thing and not really a scalable language, but it absolutely scalable if you design your systems in the right way. It can actually be incredibly scalable. It's the whole concept around microservices.
Really early test we had.
And that's the same thing I had when talking to our developers that were used to .NET or Java. They just felt like you can't build scalable stuff with Node.js, and it's just not true.
500 alien critters that we aggroed and made them all chase us around on screen, and we were dealing with high CPU tick, and we could see them all rushing and stuttering at us, and the CPU was starting to go up and all that. And we opened up the script, and I went to the line where the engineer had the callbacks, and I just made them put on every single event callback a plus or minus 500 milliseconds, and CPU usage fell by 90%.
Yep.
So a lot of it is about, it's like that old thing they tell you when you're a carpenter: work with the grain of the wood. Given technologies and given architectures have, ways that go with the grain, and you have to learn what the good patterns are in order to achieve the scalability.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, we are out of time. We are actually over time. So thank you so much. I believe that there's like a whole happy hour worth of food and drinks and probably a very loud.
Yeah, so again, extremely excited about this game. I hope the graphics comes along, but the world in itself is just going to be amazing. And nobody else is building a game with some of those concepts today. An MMO with a live world. It's just going to be incredible. And the ability that players will have to work in the world really puts the sandbox in it. Everybody else, all the things I see when they say sandbox means we're not going to give you quests and you kind of have to figure it out yourself, but we're not going to give you any tools to do things in there either. And they're not doing that. This is going to be incredible. All right, I think that's about it. I've seen everything I want to do for this session. Thank you all for joining.